In the previous video, we've discussed lists in R language, and we try to see how we can create a list of uh, elements of different types, and we discussed that a list can contain elements or values of different types. And what we saw at the very end of the previous video, when we were trying to investigate the structure of a list, and that we can access the content of each of the items or elements within a list, but we cannot see that there's any association with names. And then we at the very end of the video, we were interested to see how we can create named lists. So named lists would uh, basically create a name corresponding to each of these values. So you'll have a name and then value, um, uh, and that will be useful, especially while subsetting of list items, or you can say when you would like to access these different elements, then names can be quite handy, because you can access these different items from within a list using the names which you can define while creating a list. Right now we have seen how you can create a list, but we haven't gone through the or we haven't demonstrated the process of retrieving each of these elements from within a list. First things first, let me show you how to create a named list, or how you can give names to each of these individual elements which we've created for the list. So it's very simple to create named lists. You can basically say, so for example, in this example, we know that this is the employee name. Alice is the employee name. So let's write name equals and then value, which is Alice. Now we know that Shanghai is the city where Alice lives. So let's just give the name of city, and we know that this is salary. So let's write down salary, and we know that this is tax which she pays. So this is tax, and we know that these are the countries where Alice lived before starting her job. So we can say previous countries, and we know it's a vector, so the element is a vector itself. So let's see what happens when I try to create this list. In fact, let me clear the console so that we can see the output clearly, and I'll run the first from line 6 to line 10. It will basically create the list, and in fact, if I'll execute line number 11, it will not only create the list, but it will try to inspect the structure of this list. So let me just run it and see what happens. So it has created the list, and now you can see that it has created a list of 5 elements, and it is showing you the type of each of these elements. So you can see the first 2 elements, character, then we have number, and then we have a vector, and you can see the value, but you can also see the corresponding name which we have assigned to each of these values. So this is how you can create a named list. Now I was saying that this can be particularly useful while trying to retrieve each of these items from within a list. So once you've created a list, at some point of time in your program, you would like to access a specific element from within a list, and for that reason you'll have to do subsetting. In my next video I'll show you different ways of subsetting, because you can not only use these names to retrieve these different elements from within a list, but you can also use index numbers depending on your needs. Sometimes it's very simple to use number rather than a complete name, but then if you have large quantity of data, you would sometimes rely on names, because it's easy to remember numbers, it's easy to remember names if there are too many columns or too many um, elements in a list. So I'll show you how to access individual elements from within a list in the next video.